Now that we have finished discussing the Constitutional Convention and many of the compromises that went into the forming of our modern federalist system, we can discuss the structure and powers of the federal government. In this lesson, we're going to start with the structure and powers of specifically Congress. So the main aspect of Congress is that it is divided into two separate houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. We've already learned that this is known as bicameral organization. I've bolded, italicized, and underlined and will now circle how important that term is to know. Also, how you can simply split it by two. Cameral sounds like camel, so two-humped camel. And I'll even do a cheesy drawing of a camel for you. Yeah, that's really bad. So, bicameral organization is our modern system. The House and the Senate. The House of Representatives has 435 members, and those members fluctuate based on population. This is known as proportional representation. Terms of service are 2 years. That means that elections for every single member take place every 2 years. You must be a minimum of 25 years old and have lived in the United States for at least 7 years. Members represent the people from their district, which is the part of a state where they come from. In some cases, this could be an entire state. For example, Wyoming only has one member of the House of Representatives. The House is led by a person known as the Speaker of the House. The Senate, 100 members. It is equal representation, so there are 2 members for each state. This is called equal representation. Terms of service are 6 years. Elections are every 2 years for 1/3 of the Senate. The other third goes in 2 more years, and the last third 2 years after that. This makes this a more ongoing body that can't be entirely changed in one election cycle, like the House of Representatives could. You have to be a minimum of 30 years old and have lived in the United States for at least 9 years. Members of the Senate represent the citizens of their entire state. And lastly, the Vice President of the U.S. presides over the Senate and breaks any tie votes. So Article 1 of the Constitution describes the powers and limitations of Congress. The Elastic Clause gives Congress what's called implied powers, but there are specific things Congress may not do. They cannot impose taxes on exports, because remember, at the Constitutional Convention, the northern industrial states wanted high import tariffs, and the southern agricultural cash crop states wanted no export tariffs, so that their cotton and tobacco would be attractive to European purchasers. You cannot grant titles of nobility, so everyone is to be treated equally under the law. You cannot favor one state over another. And lastly, you may not suspend the writ of habeas corpus. This is the right to be released from police custody if there is not sufficient evidence against you. The only exception of suspending the writ of habeas corpus is a national emergency, such as an internal rebellion or an invasion from a foreign power. Those would be really the only acceptable ways of suspending the writ of habeas corpus for any reason. Some presidents have actually been criticized, such as Abraham Lincoln, for suspending the writ of habeas corpus because the executive is described in Article 2, so therefore suspending the writ would be a congressional power because it is described in Article 1. And presidents who have used or abused a power of suspending the writ of habeas corpus have been heavily criticized, even famous presidents like Abraham Lincoln. Bills and lobbying. This is really the procedure by which Congress follows to pass laws. This is known as how a bill becomes a law. This will be done in a lot more detail on a separate note sheet that we will do together in class. Interest groups, such as professional lobbyists or even political action committees, known as PACs, or even today, there are super PACs that are allowed to fundraise even more than traditional PACs. They often donate funds to congressional campaigns. So, therefore, a congressional leader who had been given money by a certain interest group is going to want to reward them by voting in a way that favors them. That is the end of this notes presentation. Please make sure that you go to the website and take the online quiz that is associated with this video, and I will see you in class tomorrow to go over how a bill becomes a law. Thank you.